It's the sport of kings, better than diamond rings. Football, Wildcats, football, Wildcats, football, Wildcats, football, Wildcats, football, Wildcats, football, Wildcats.
Welcome to the Married with Picks podcast, season 2, episode 20, week 18, the final season of the 2021, final week of the 2021 season. All right, before we get started, remember we're available anywhere you get your podcasts. Like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. So pretty good week last week, Steve. I do want to take credit for the Oakland Raiders call, or what are they now? The Vegas Raiders. Bengals, Cardinals, San Francisco came through. Started off a little rough, but they got there. But the Bucs did crush me in every bet that I had. And I didn't even have them at the full line. I had them at 6.5. But anyway, let's move on. So this is the final week. A little bit tricky because we have a lot of teams that are kind of locked into a playoff spot, teams that are not playing for anything. But we do have some games where the teams are playing for something. And we will discuss those as we get to them. So the games are out of order here, but we'll start the way it goes.
Remember to like or hit subscribe if you're watching online.
I already said that.
I thought you missed it. Sorry.
I love how you listen, dear. All right. So the games are a little out of order, but we're going to take them in the order we have them. So first game on the list is Dallas at Philadelphia. This is the Saturday night game. It's at -4 in favor of Dallas. I think it has moved around a little bit. Neither team here has much to play for. They're pretty much locked into their spots in the playoffs. Both teams are in the playoffs. Dallas says that they're going to play their starters. They will be without Micah Parsons, Tyron Smith, cornerback Anthony Brown, Tony Pollard, and Trayvon Diggs. Eagles have 12 or so players on the COVID list now. I'm not sure how many they will get off prior to game time, but what are your thoughts about this game, Steve?
Well, I'm assuming a lot of the players for the Eagles would get off COVID lists, and this is just a strategy from Howie. It's just ironic how they've been so good not getting many people infected with COVID. And as soon as the Redskins game was over last week, or the Washington football team played the Eagles, 12, 15 players went on the COVID list. So I think they're going to rest a lot of people. What I'm looking at is I think Dallas, even though they say they're going to start a lot of their players, will probably rest them. It's going to be cold. So I don't think they're going to play the whole game. And I'm looking at a backup quarterback matchup, really. And I like Gardner Minshew. I think Gardner Minshew is going to come out and at minimal treat this as if it's an audition for another team. It's his last game. He'll probably get to play, obviously, here in the 2021 season. But Gardner Minshew came out against the Jets when he got the lone opportunity to play this year, and he was slinging the ball around the field. So I see this game kind of getting into the second half, really playing out more like a preseason game where you have very few starters in, if any. And it could be anybody's game, but I think the home field advantage at the end of the game with the fans cheering on Gardner Minshew, he is kind of a fan favorite there in Philadelphia, will allow them to at least keep this into a 3-point game, even if they lose. So I think Philly's going to win the game.
All right. I don't want anything to do with it since we don't really know what's what. My question for you was going to be, if Dallas says they're starting their starters, if Philly doesn't start their starters, then isn't that kind of awkward? Like to have their whole offense going up against a bunch of scrubs.
Well, I mean, because this could be like a 30-0 score if it plays out to be Dallas's starters all play in the first half and Philly's second unit starting the game. Yeah. So, yeah, it could get pretty ugly. I mean, let's be clear. Unless something happens, this is one of those games where right up against it, I'm going to see what's specifically going on, who's playing, and maybe get a better read on it. That's what makes this week so difficult, especially as you introduce the COVID protocols, and it's not clear whether you're going to have some of these players in there or not. So it's hard to prognosticate these games a day or two early.
Well, let's not waste too much time on this one. All right. So the next game up is Kansas City at Denver. This is the Saturday 4:30 game. The current line is 10.5 in favor of Kansas City. Now, Kansas City is playing for something. They could secure the first seed if Tennessee loses to the Texans, and they don't play until Sunday, so they obviously won't know. Tennessee did lose to the Texans last time they played, so I mean, I guess if you're Kansas City, you still gotta go. Denver will have Drew Lock at quarterback. These teams played back in December. Kansas City won that game 22-9. I don't know what to make. Like, I thought that Denver might be a little more interesting with Drew Lock at quarterback, and he hasn't done much. The running backs have done nothing since he took over. So I don't know what to make of that. I think Kansas City definitely wins the game. I don't really like it at 10.5 though, so it would be maybe a teaser leg for me.
I like Kansas City. I think they're just going to lay the smack down on Denver. It's in a good position at 4:30, the only game on. It's, prime time pretty much, and Andy Reid's great in prime time positions. So I like Kansas City. I think they're going to fight hard. Denver, you could see a team that's just kind of disenfranchised here and not interested in really winning the game. So typically, in the middle of the season, this game, Kansas City coming into Denver, division game, I would look for it to be a little closer, but I would take Kansas City here and feel good about it.
All right. Next game up is Green Bay at Detroit. Open at -11. It's down to -3.5. I think it might even be down further at this point. And that is based on the fact that Green Bay is locked into the number 1 seed. Aaron Rodgers will start that game, but how long he'll actually be in there is questionable. Highly doubt that.
He better not be in for long. The head coach needs to lose his job.
I believe that the Lions will have Jared Goff back at quarterback. I wish I'd gotten it when the line was a little bit higher, but we saw Jordan Love in one game this year. It didn't look good.
It doesn't look like A.J. Dillon's playing either.
I thought Aaron Jones.
No, but both of them are going to be out.
Yeah, so, I think, no game has really meant much to the Detroit Lions in terms of the season this year. So, I think they're going to go out there and play just like they have every other week. I think Dan Campbell will want to go out on a high note. So I think you can take the points with Detroit here.
I love it at 3.5 if you're going to get that hook. I definitely would say take Detroit here. They've shown a lot of passion the second half of the season, and they're not going to cash it in.
All right, so next game up is Chicago at Minnesota. It's -6 in favor of Minnesota. It's down to -5.5. It sounds like Andy Dalton will be the quarterback for the Bears. And rumor has it that Matt Nagy will be out after this game. And the reports are that they've already
Blue Hen
told him that. I guess there's some potential that Zimmer could get fired after this too, but we'll see.
I would. That guy seems like he's got 9 lives up there.
So neither team playing for much. I don't know if I really want to put my money on it, but I would definitely lean Minnesota on this one.
Yeah, I think you just take the home team. They're probably more motivated just to play in front of the fans, but that's not a great deal of motivation, believe me. Both of these teams looking to clean out the locker room and get headed onto the off season. So tough game to pick, really.
All right. So next game up is one with playoff implications. We have the New England Patriots going down to Miami. Open at -2.5. It's up to -6.5 in favor of New England. New England is vying for the division with the Bills. So they do need this win. They are playing at the same time, I guess, as the Bills. We saw Miami come back to earth last week, got beat pretty good by the Titans after having won 7 games straight. These teams did play in week 1 of the season. Miami did win that game, but I think that was obviously Mac Jones' first game as a Patriot. He's got a little experience under his belt. I think Belichick will have them prepared. Miami not playing for anything at this point, so I would take the Patriots here.
Yeah, looking ahead at this game, a week or two ago, I was really liking the way Miami was sitting up to play New England. But since they got eliminated, I think they're still going to go up there and they got a lot of young guys, that they can keep motivated to play their normal game. But like you said, they're going up they're actually playing down in Miami, and New England's getting ready for the playoffs. I think that Belichick will have them ready to go, especially jockeying for position in the playoffs. I would take New England pretty strong here.
Belichick wants to reclaim his division crown. So, all right, next game up is another one with implications. We have the Indianapolis Colts going to Jacksonville. The line is -15.5 in favor of the Colts. These teams played back in week 10. The Colts won that game, but only by 6 points, 23-17. This is a must win for the Colts to get into the playoffs. The Jags, to me, it's a lot of points, but I feel like Jacksonville checked out of the season a long time ago. So I really don't know how much motivation they have to do much on the field this week. So I could see it being a blowout, but and you can run on the Jags. So the Colts run first strategy will definitely work there. They won't have to rely on Carson Wentz too much. But it's just a big line, and I could see it going either way. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, they're talking about the fans all getting together and dressing like clowns for the big clown show the Jacksonville Jaguars are this season, which I think is pretty funny. So be on the lookout if you see highlights or watching this game, look in the stands and see what the fans are doing. But that's got to be really demotivating when you see your home fans even coming up with ideas like that, but let alone showing up at the stadium in clown outfits. I don't think Jacksonville's going to be motivated for this game at all. It's really kind of a shit show down there. So Indianapolis is going to come in fired up. I think Frank Reich's going to have these guys scoring early and often and put this game out of reach.
So you would take it at 15.5.
I would take it at 20.
All right. Next game up is...
I'm looking at like 30-3 here. I would take it at 25.
I don't trust it.
No, they're going to be ready to go.
All right. Next game, New York Jets at the Buffalo Bills. It's at -16.5 in favor of Buffalo. So Buffalo is playing for the division. We saw the Jets compete with the Bucs last week. So I could see them doing that again. These teams did play back in week 9. The Bills won that game 45-17, but that was the second Mike White experiment that didn't go as well as the first. There is some weather concerns in this game. There could be freezing rain and wind during the game. So I think Buffalo probably wins. I think it was more the Bucs defense that didn't show up as much last week against the Jets, but I would not take Buffalo at that number. I would definitely lean the Jets there.
I agree. It's too many points. It's a division battle, so they're going to come in and play. They're professionals. I think this line is just way too high, and I don't understand why Buffalo is given this much respect, especially after New York showed that they could play a little bit last week. Zach Wilson's coming off that injury, and he's looking to finish the season strong for his rookie campaign. I think they're going to give Buffalo all they can handle here. I'll take those points all day.
All right. Next game is Carolina at Tampa Bay. Open at -16.5 in favor of Tampa Bay. It's down to -8. Now, I don't know what to make of this game because, well, number one, these teams just played a couple weeks ago. Actually, 2 weeks ago. It was Antonio Brown's last game as a Buccaneer. Wouldn't
that be last week when
it wasn't a full game. He didn't play the full game. His last game. Good performance.
I don't know. He had some good moves there in the end zone. The little wave to the fans. It was a good move.
So anyway, the Bucs won that game 32-6. But so Tampa Bay is obviously locked in. They've won the division, but they are kind of seeding is an issue. But I realized before we came up here, if they win this game, they would be locked into the 2 seed. And if by chance the Saints make the playoffs, then they would face each other in the first round. And that's got to be the one matchup that the Bucs don't want. Like, let somebody else deal with the Saints. The Saints probably aren't going to make it far.
They want nothing to do with the Saints, that's for sure.
Now, they had the same thing last year. They played twice in the regular season. The Saints won both matchups pretty handedly, but they were able to beat them in the playoffs. So maybe they're not worried about that, but I almost feel like they would be better off not having to worry about that. So I don't know if that's something that they're thinking about. And I don't know if you can like actually lose to the Carolina Panthers. So I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, you're a big Tom Brady fan. Are you concerned about Tampa Bay's chances? Like,
I'm very concerned. The moment he walked across the end zone, I was worried.
Yeah, I think they're in trouble. I mean, I wouldn't even touch this game because who the hell knows what's going to happen with Tampa? They've shown when AB's not in there that their offense doesn't click as smooth. And, they started finding answers with Leonard Fournette and getting him involved tremendously in the passing game. And he's gone. So, no Ronald Jones.
Well, he's not gone. Leonard Fournette can be back in the playoffs.
Yeah, but they're talking about this week. I mean, this week, with none of these guys, and Antonio Brown's the scapegoat to be able to, Tom Brady be able to lean on him to get a win here. Now you're just dealing with, pretty much Gronk and Mike Evans. So
now, interesting, Gronk does have some incentives in his contract that he could meet.
They're pretty reachable, right? I mean, they're not insane.
So he needs 7 catches, 85 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So the 3 touchdowns might be a little rough, but
he's had 3 touchdown games before, but that's
I'm sure
that's miraculous.
But he could get the other ones. Because they're each $500K a piece.
Okay, so they're not all tied together. So
no, it's 55 catches, 750 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Each one is worth $500,000. So I don't know. I mean, I think that probably Tampa Bay wins -8. See if maybe that line even goes down a little bit more. Is probably safe. Now they were missing some guys on defense last week, which I think was partially responsible because that was really where they seemed to struggle against the Jets. And it looks like most of those guys are going to be out this week too. You have Shaq Barrett, outside linebacker, is out. They have Ryan Jensen, their center, is questionable. Ronald Jones is out. Jason Pierre-Paul is out. Rashawn Robinson, cornerback, out. Richard Sherman, doubtful. And Justin Watson, he don't matter. And Sue was not injury related, but he was not a participant at practice all week either.
Right, do you have a pick in this game?
I mean, I would take the Tampa Bay, but I just feel like there's a lot of factors in there that worry me a little bit.
Okay.
All right. Do you have a pick?
No, I don't like it.
Okay. Next game, Tennessee at Houston. It's at -10 in favor of Tennessee. So, if Kansas City should win on Saturday, then they need this win to keep the first seed, which comes with the first round bye. So obviously they want that. These teams did play back in week 10. The Titans lost that game 22-13. That was when they had Tyrod Taylor for the Texans, and that was the Adrian Peterson experiment that didn't go so well. So, I mean, I think the Titans definitely win. I guess there is an outside chance that Derrick Henry gets activated tomorrow and would at least participate in the game, get a little bit of run. But we'll find that out tomorrow. So it's a big line. It worries me a little bit. I definitely think Tennessee wins, but I'd feel more comfortable putting that in a teaser.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the line at all. Tennessee's going to roll. They need this bye big time so that they can get Derrick Henry a little bit extra rest. And then gear up for, a lot of people don't give Ryan Tannehill, I think, enough credit here. He's shown a lot of improvement, but when you put him with a wide receiver that's coming to his own, like A.J. Brown, who I believe is arguably top 5 receiver in the league now, and you put Derrick Henry back in, these guys are going to make a serious run in the playoffs. And you got to consider that 2 years ago, They went to the AFC Championship and barely lost and missed the Super Bowl. But they had gone in before to New England, knocked Tom Brady out, and Bill Belichick. So they were geared and ready for a good season last year, but they ran into secondary issues and they couldn't stop anybody from driving down the field. Now they've kind of shored that up. They're playing much better on defense, and I think they're geared up to make a serious run here at the Super Bowl. I really like Tennessee. I think that when you like teams like that don't kind of sputter into the playoffs here, especially when they get the number 1 seed on the line. And Houston is a team that I think is just ready to bail out and go home for the season. So I will take Tennessee. I would say it's 17 points at least, but it's a 10.5 point line. You should feel comfortable taking Tennessee this week. I think Tennessee and Colts are really 2 teams with big lines that you should take a look at laying some money down on this week.
Okay. All right. So next game up is Washington at the New York Giants. It's at -7 in favor of Washington. Neither team playing for anything but their own self-respect, which the Giants don't have any. They're a complete dumpster fire at this point. So I would take Washington at -7.
Yeah, I would take Washington too. But this is a tough game to really play. Be safe, maybe tease it. But Washington's the play here.
Next game up is New Orleans at Atlanta. It's at -3.5 in favor of the Saints. The Saints will get into the playoffs if they win this game and the Rams win. So, which I think has a real shot of not happening. But anyway, so these teams met back in week 8. Atlanta actually won that game 27-25. Trevor Siemian was the starter in that game. So, I mean, to me, it comes down to the Saints defense. If they can show up for this game. I just read before we came up here and I didn't write it down. They're going to be without the 1 tackle again. I think they're getting the other tackle back and the it's like Armstead or something, the defensive guy. So, I mean, I think the Saints probably win this game. I would prefer it at 3.
Oh, you're wearing your shirt. All right, it's the Christmas present that the boys got her.
That came, 2 weeks after Christmas?
Yeah, it's a little delayed in the mail. The boys apologize for the tardy Christmas present. They're 5 years old. They don't really look at the delivery dates when they're ordering stuff off Amazon. I apologize for the boys.
Off of Amazon? Amazon took that long to get here?
It did. It did.
Looks like, I thought it came like straight from China or something.
It was Amazon, but it was like not a Amazon Prime. So
Okay.
Those guys tend to take a little bit longer when they're not preferred. And that's usually why, because their delivery times are longer. But I digress. I like Atlanta here. They're playing at home. This could be Matt Ryan's last game in Atlanta. I think these 2 teams have typically played each other close as division rivals, even though Atlanta's not really playing for anything here. I think it would give them motivation to knock New Orleans out of the playoffs. The line's 3.5, 4 in one place. It's flashing. So who knows? By Sunday, you could get the full 4, maybe even more. With the hook, I like Atlanta. I think it's no more than a 3-point margin of victory here if New Orleans does win.
All right. So next game up is Pittsburgh at Baltimore. It was at -3.5 when I printed this, but it was higher because I actually bet it at -4.5. I'm not exactly sure why it's coming down in favor of Pittsburgh.
Well, Pittsburgh's playing for the playoffs, right? I mean, Baltimore can still sneak in.
Pittsburgh's out. Baltimore has like some ridiculous way that they could potentially get in, but I mean, realistically, it's not going to happen. But anyway,
Pittsburgh's not out. They won last week. They're 8-7-1. They could still get in the playoffs.
If they can still get in the playoffs, then they have an even more ridiculous outside shot because the Ravens are ahead of them and they have a ridiculous outside shot. So
they beat Cleveland last week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pittsburgh's still in. Baltimore's still technically alive too from what I'm looking at here. Here's the standings, right? If you got an E, you're eliminated. Baltimore's still alive at their 11. It's weird because right now Miami's actually 10th in the standings, a spot ahead of them, but they're eliminated.
Wins. What does that say?
It's just a tiebreaker. Don't worry. That's all you need to know.
Between
Just
here,
trust
though.
it. We're on the podcast.
Right,
Baltimore still has a
regardless.
shot. Pittsburgh still has a shot. Vegas still has a shot. And the Chargers
It's
still
a
have a shot.
very long outside shot. They need like 5 things to happen. And is this where they need like the tie in the other game?
I don't know the specifics. I mean, it seems like there'd be a lot of crazy stuff to happen for the Ravens to get in.
I'm considering that these teams are out.
You know, I would say that for the Ravens to get in, just by looking here, Pittsburgh's got to lose. Vegas and the Chargers would have to tie probably because they're playing each other.
So what that was the.
No, you would say everybody's got to lose. Indy, one of Vegas, and I don't know because they're only playing for 2 spots. So Colts would have to lose.
Yes. Okay. That's the number one. Regardless.
Colts Steelers would lose.
You're really ruining this for me. This is my favorite game of the week, and you just got totally sidetracked. So anyway, my favorite game of the week.
You said that they had no shot at the playoffs, the Steelers, and they do, and they're playing this game. So I'm sorry, I just had to correct you.
You just cut me off again. So anyway, this is my favorite game of the week. Last week we had Ben's big. Why? What?
Why is it your favorite game of the week? Please tell me.
If you would stop interrupting me, I will get to it eventually. So last week, Big Ben had his big final show at Heinz Field. And it wasn't pretty. I mean, they did win the game, but for some dumb reason, I went in and I put in like a, 6-piece same game parlay. And one of the pieces was Ben Roethlisberger over passing yards. And it was like 236 or something. And like, I don't know, like 5 minutes into the third quarter, he had 123 yards. And he finished the game with 123 yards. It was like passing complete, passing complete, passing complete. So it wasn't pretty. I mean, he's done. Stick a fork in him. So I think they've all pretty much checked out. You got the Baltimore Ravens. They've had a tough season. A lot of injuries from the get-go. The last couple games that they lost, I mean, they really competed. They lost last week to the Rams by 1 point? I mean, they're trying their best, but they're just up against it. So they're at 8-8 on the season. They win this game. At least they finish the season with a winning record. So I like the Ravens here. I like them a lot.
Well, the last 2 weeks and the week before that, they were down 2 touchdowns to Green Bay. Actually, more than that. I think maybe like 16, 15 points. And they scored 2 touchdowns. Couldn't convert on the 2-point conversion.
Well, those were the 2
tie
games that they went for the 2 points, which I don't
and that was all with the
but
backup quarterback.
That was the third string quarterback, right? One of those games.
Who?
But Josh Johnson. Because Huntley had, or Huntley, whatever his name is, had COVID.
I thought Huntley played last week.
He did play last week.
Well, against Green Bay, he played too.
Okay. Well, there was whatever. We're getting very sidetracked on this. There was one game where the third stringer started.
Okay.
And they were still competitive.
All right. You get to your pick.
The Ravens. I already got there, finally.
All right.
Do you have a pick on this game?
No.
You want to take the Steelers? You want to bet on it?
No.
Okay. All right. Next game. Cincinnati at Cleveland. Cincinnati is locked into the playoffs. Cleveland is out of the playoffs. Or do they have an outside shot too?
No, they suck. They lost to Steelers last week, so that's why they're out.
So Cincinnati is not starting Joe Burrow. It will be Brandon Allen in his place. I think Joe Mixon is not playing either. Obviously, I don't know how much the wide receivers will play. Baker is off getting the surgery that he needs, and so it will be Case Keenum. I would assume that maybe Cleveland has kind of the same philosophy, wanting to go out on top. It's been a kind of rough season for them. You can run on Cincinnati, so I would think that they at least try, maybe go back to their actual like identity of running Chubb, which they have not done in some of these games. It's been very confusing to me. So I would lean Cleveland.
Really?
Yeah. You're going to take the Bengals with Brandon Allen?
I don't like Cleveland a little bit. I would take Cincinnati.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, their quarterback is out too, right? Isn't he getting surgery?
Yeah, but I mean, Case Keenum versus Brandon Allen?
Who's Case Keenum?
Case Keenum is a decent backup. I mean,
he
he's-
sucks.
Yeah, but how far of a step down is he from Baker Mayfield?
I don't know. I watched him get thrashed in the 2017 NFC Championship in Philadelphia.
Well, he played this season and he won.
He sucks. I would take Cincinnati.
He's a very capable backup.
I would take Cincinnati. I think
not
this is a team
much
that's
of a
got a winning
step down
culture.
from Baker Mayfield at all.
I think Cleveland's struggling majorly.
But they're not playing for anything either. Like, who cares?
Well, neither is Cleveland. Cleveland's heart has been taken out. If you think about it.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of
from the playoffs going into the last.
There's a lot of times that you're not like a lot of these teams. The Jets, they haven't been playing for anything all season. They still go out there and play.
I like Cincinnati. Do you want to bet on this game? Give me 6 points. Let's go. I'll take 6. You can have Cleveland.
Okay, good. It's a great game to bet.
By the way, am I going to get any of my money for these bets? I mean, I've been kicking your butt so bad that you stopped betting me because you're scared that it's going to jinx your pick. So we haven't bet anything in the last 3 weeks. I think you.
I should have bet you last week, but see, it worked.
You should have.
I didn't get jinxed. So I'm happy.
It worked.
It did. I didn't bet you, and the Bengals won.
All right. You did bet me. The Bengals are still going to win.
All right. So if you want to go back and watch all the podcasts and figure out exactly how much you're up, then I'll give you the money.
My money's your money, whatever.
All right. Next game is Seattle at Arizona. Arizona is playing for the division. And these teams met a few weeks ago. Arizona won that game 23-13. I think that was when Russ was having his finger issues. And obviously, Seattle did pretty well last week, but that was against Detroit. So I think the Cardinals definitely win this game. But I guess the wild card here is Seattle's motivation. Like, if they come to play, then I can see them competing and being within this line, which is 6.5. But if they've kind of packed it in for the season, then I could see Arizona winning pretty handily. So
I liked Arizona. I mean, I liked Arizona last week against Dallas, like majorly. But I still saw an Arizona team that was struggling, that still looked like the team that more so that played the last couple of weeks before the Dallas game and was struggling with Lamar trying to get better. I
always get them two mixed up.
Kyler Murray, struggling to get back into the saddle. And I think they're going to come and play against a division foe in Seattle and Russell Wilson, who's not going to, I don't think Russell Wilson's too much of a professional to mail it in the last game of the season. I really like Seattle here. I would take the points. I think Arizona was definitely still trying to figure out how to move the ball effectively without Hopkins. And, Dallas didn't impress me much at all last week. I don't want to give them too much credit. It was really a play against Dallas. So I don't want to give Arizona too much credit. I'm going to take the points here in Seattle.
Okay. I'm going to put this in my teaser, and I'm going to take the Cardinals.
You want to go straight up and go 2 in a row?
What do you mean?
Give me 6.
No, I'm not giving you 6. What did I just say? I'm going to put them in a teaser. Does that mean I'm going to play him at 6?
How about this?
You think that means I want to bet you?
How about this?
I'll bet you like money line.
I'll let you tease it down to 5.5 with me.
No. Mm-mm. I'll bet you who wins outright. That's it.
I want the points.
You're not getting them. Not from me.
I'll wait till Sunday and get points. How about that?
All right. Next game, San Francisco at the LA Rams. It's at -4.5 in favor of the Rams. Your Rams, who are gearing up for their playoff run, they need this to win. They need to win, and they get the division. Now, historically, Kyle Shanahan absolutely owns Sean McVay. He's won every single matchup between these two teams since those two took over as the coaches. Jimmy G is questionable for this game. It sounds like he's trending towards playing. I definitely like it a lot better if it is Jimmy G. I still don't trust this Trey Lance. Stafford looked like crap last week. He threw multiple interceptions, fumbled the ball. This is another one. Cooper Kupp has, he needs 12 receptions, 136 yards to get a record. I don't know what record it is because I just found it on Twitter and it just said what he needed to get the record, but it didn't say what the record was.
No.
But I guess it's like most yardage in a season by a wide receiver. I know Michael Thomas has the other records. I think that was the most receptions in a single season. So as long as Jimmy G plays, I'm taking the points and I'm taking San Fran.
I'm going to take the Rams. I see the line going down to 4. I think by Sunday it'll probably go down more because people like San Francisco. They think they're desperate to get into the playoffs.
Sharp action is on San Francisco.
Yeah, I don't like San Fran a little bit here. I'm going to take the Rams.
All right. Every dog has his day. Maybe Sean McVay finally gets one. But all right. So the last game is the Sunday night game, the big game of the week. The LA Chargers at the Las Vegas Raiders, who, as Steve informed me earlier, they do not play in the same stadium. It's at -3 in favor of the Chargers.
They don't even play in the same town.
I know, but for some reason I was thinking it was the same stadium. I know.
I can't believe you even brought it up here. I mean, that's embarrassing. That you even
geography
said that.
is not my thing.
I wasn't going to call you out on it. I can't believe you called yourself out on it.
So anyway, both teams need.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
How far is Las Vegas on the West Coast? Like on the coast, like on the water?
No.
How far is it
it's
from?
It's in Nevada.
And what's closer to the Pacific Ocean, California or Nevada?
You know what I think confused me because they moved the Raiders. And was there some potential that they were going to play at that stadium too?
The Raiders used to.
They were in Oakland. I understand that.
They moved to LA. Then they moved back to Oakland.
They moved where?
To LA. They used to be the LA Raiders.
I wonder why I'm confused. Yeah, okay, so they did previously play in the same stadium.
No, they never played in the same stadium.
But they potentially were going to play in the same stadium.
Never. Ever.
So they never moved. You said they moved.
The Raiders were in LA.
To LA.
They moved to LA and then back to Oakland for like 10 years.
But when they were in LA, they never played in LA.
Yeah, they played in LA.
So, but just not at this stadium.
They played at the Coliseum.
Because the stadium just opened. Okay. So, but that at least makes sense why I thought they played at the same stadium. Because they did play in LA.
Yeah, but they never played in LA when the Chargers were playing in LA.
Regardless. Back to the game. So, you just threw me totally off my thing. I can't
believe you brought that up. I know you just got way sidetracked. So the Chargers are playing the Las Vegas Raiders here. The Raiders have won 3 games by, I think, a total of maybe 8 points here to end the season and have kept their playoff hopes alive. It's going to be a tough game, but they're playing at home against the Chargers, and the Chargers have been a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde team, especially throughout the second half of the season. Who do you think is going to win this game? I mean, they got the Chargers here as a 3-point favorite. Is the right team favored here?
Oh, I definitely think the right team is favored. I definitely think the Chargers are the better team, I think. They're definitely the team that I would prefer to see make the playoffs.
But I think a lot of America's thinking like you, and I think a lot of the bettors out there are just going to kind of look at this game and think the Chargers are the better team, or they're at least the more flashy team. They got the better quarterback, and I'm not even going to say they have the better quarterback. I'm not really sure. They have the Prince who's in the second year and everybody loves and thinks is going to have a shot at being one of the good ones. But you can't discount Derek Carr here. And you got to remember where this Raiders team is coming from. I mean, they had a lot of hopes this season to go into the playoffs and making a run at the Super Bowl. And they had to run into this John Gruden thing where he got thrown off the team. And they're now run by the interim coach who has got these guys playing. And they might have only won close games, but Chargers tend to get into a lot of close games. I'm going to take the Raiders here. I think that they have a storybook season, almost a fairy tale season, if they were able to end up and get into the playoffs. And I think Mike Mayock's got enough talent on this roster as the GM for the Raiders that Carr's going to get them into the playoffs and they're going to win this game in an upset.
Well, I had the Raiders last week. I don't think the Raiders win this week. I think the Chargers win this game. I'm going to play them at 3. I could see it maybe being a close game, being like a 2-point game, and you getting screwed there. But
think about this. The Raiders, right? Every home game has been like a 50-50 crowd because every fan base is going to Las Vegas because they want to party in Vegas, right? You know who's not traveling to see their team play in Vegas, and that's the Chargers. I mean, they're in the same situation where
they're very close.
They're in the same situation where the Chargers, even over the last couple of seasons while they were waiting for this new stadium to be built, and it continued this year, it's another fan favorite place to go watch an away game. So there's been many games where the Chargers have played at home and have felt like the underdog or the away team because of the amount of fans that are there. But my point is that they're playing in Vegas, and Vegas constantly has like a 50-50 crowd. But there's going to be nobody in there that's cheering for the Chargers. You might have a handful of people. So this is going to be like a true Raiders home game. I think the stadium's going to be electric. They're going to be pulling for the Raiders, and this is going to line up to be an upset. Home dog, baby. Live home dog here.
All right. Well, I would bet you on it, but I don't want to. No, I don't want to jinx.
This one should be the last game of the season that we're going over.
Totally be the
game of the regular season.
Totally be the jinx.
Well, then that would be appropriate.
I'll bet you straight up who wins, but I'm not giving you 3 points.
I'll do it.
All right. Straight up.
Straight up. I'll take the Raiders. Money line.
All right. So that does it for week 18. And I guess that does it for us for the season, Steve. Jeez, it just flies by, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right. So before we get out of here, remember to like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. We're available anywhere you get your podcasts. We will be back next year for season 3. But before we leave.
Are you sure?
Yes. Who's your pick to win the Super Bowl, Steve?
All right.
Let me get mine out there first because you're going to take mine. It's the Tennessee Titans.
Okay. Is that simple?
Yes, absolutely. They were the best team in football right now, and they're getting Derrick Henry back.
Listen, I think this is going to be the most exciting playoffs that we've watched. It's going to be very unpredictable. You don't know who's going to go in with this COVID issue and maybe miss a game. But even if there is none of those issues, I think we have proven through the course of the regular season that a lot of these teams are evenly matched. And even though Green Bay is the only team that has the number 1 seed locked up, I think that they're definitely very beatable in the playoffs. They look good, but they're definitely very beatable in the playoffs. Somebody could go into Green Bay and take them. I think this is going to be anybody's game. The teams I'm looking at, I was looking at Buffalo before the season, but they've fluttered, and I'm not liking them that much this coming into the playoffs. I do like the way Indy's making a run. They lost last week.
They're not going to win the Super Bowl. You can't win the Super Bowl with Carson Wentz. I don't care what you say.
You can win the Super Bowl with Carson Wentz, but the key is that you're going to have to ride Jonathan Taylor. So I was talking to some friends today. I said, what's going to happen inevitably is the season for the Colts is going to come down to Carson Wentz and that moment. And is he going to be an utter disaster and fail, or is he going to make the big play? He has proven time and time again this season that he is an utter disaster when they're leaning on him and they need him to make a big play. I give him about a 20% chance of that moment going Carson Wentz's way, but it is possible. They need to ride Jonathan Taylor. I do like the Titans. I think they're going to get Derrick Henry back. If they can get a bye here, not play the first week, Derrick Henry will be back in action. And even if they don't get the bye, it's possible that he's probably going to play. But another week of rest, when the way A.J. Brown's playing, I think Tannehill's another one of those quarterbacks that's not necessarily the most talented, but he's good enough to get it done when he's surrounded by the right players. He's only getting better. Remember, Ryan Tannehill didn't start playing quarterback until he was in college. So his ceiling is still kind of questionable. Another debate I was having with some friends is, is he what it is? Ryan Tannehill. And I'm trying to say, listen, you don't know how good Ryan Tannehill can get. He might not get any better, but there's still the possibility because he's a late quarterback play in his career. He's still learning a little bit. So I do like Tennessee. On the other side, I don't like the way Tampa Bay is coming in with his Antonio Brown thing, even though Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback that ever played. It's been proven again. If you have a lot of drama going on and a lot of distractions, it's not good for
and the
Super Bowl
injuries.
runs.
I mean, that's the other part of the whole AB thing.
Yeah, I think it's set up well for Dallas, but I expect them to choke as normal. So I'm not really looking for Dallas to make too big of a run. I do expect, as I was saying earlier in the season, I do expect the Rams to make a run here and get their act together. That's why I took them this week. I think it's going to be a drive into
Matt
the
Stafford's
Super
looked
Bowl.
like crap the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, but Matt Stafford is still better than what he's shown.
Matt Stafford's never played in a playoff game.
I like the Raiders or
Right?
the Rams. I think that McVay's going to have them ready to go, and Cooper Kupp is the best receiver in the NFL.
Is it
So he's gonna be
weird that
tough
like
to beat.
Cooper Kupp's going to be like the first like number 1 drafted wide receiver next year?
Yeah.
Like who would have thought that going into this season? It's crazy.
I would say Colts or Tennessee would be my strong play.
If you stop talking about the damn Colts winning the Super
Colts
Bowl,
is a
'cause
long
they're
shot.
not
It's an
going
underdog.
anywhere with Carson Wentz.
Colts got a
Sorry,
shot. That defense is
sorry,
coming
not
around.
happening.
Frank Reich is the man as a play caller.
Poor Frank Reich signed up, thought he had Andrew Luck as the quarterback, and it's been downhill. All right, well, that'll do it for us. We'll see you next year. Peace out.